Hello, I'm Sigma. Phew, I finally did it. I finally made a huge update. Since it's so big and since so much stuff has changed or has been added from version 2.0, I thought it would be best if this was a model showcase rather than an update video, so... Welcome to version 3.0, the remarkable rework update. Thank you for buying the product and thank you for watching if you're just interested in it. This version should still work for Blender 3.6, but many features has been changed with Blender 4.0 in mind. In the corner here, I will be putting up a sign whenever certain features or part of the tutorial are intended for more experienced Blender users, or for those that want to experiment more with the model. There will also be text on screen when things have been changed from version 2.4. Without further ado, let's begin! First of all, how to import a model in a scene. Use and edit the model in its own blend file, and once done, select all and copy. Go to whatever other blend file you have and paste them. Another way would be to be working in another blend file, go to File, Append, Scene, and select the scene. This will give you access to all the functionality straight there, except for the pose library, which you can import by going again into File, Append, this time Actions, and select them all and append them. You will find them without order in the asset browser. The first options of the menu are ways to change the model's shape. This combined with the pose library on the left will give you a great range of customization. The first three menu options are pure shape keys. Let me show you. Before going over the last button, let's focus on the pose library first. Either select the mesh or the armature, but if you select the armature, make sure to select all bones or none, then click on one of the options in the library menu. You can blend poses together by right-clicking on a pose in the asset browser window and click Blend Pose and dragging, or by using the pose library menu, clicking and holding. You can also select specific bones to affect only those from the pose. If you want to drastically switch between poses, you can default back by going either in Unassigned and clicking the 0 option, or selecting all bones and go to Pose, Clear, Transform All, or by pressing Alt-R, Alt-G and Alt-S in any order. Here are all the basic poses. For the Toon, Amber and Furry options, after you've enabled a pose, you go back here to this button and select the corresponding shape key. This will fix some unruly geometry and make it look better overall. For ease and common use, these options are intended to be either on or off, but if you want more of a slider like the others, you can go into Object Properties and change the property type to Float. Here are the options for controlling the color, displacement and other features of the base mesh. If instead of these options you have your own textures you want to use, just a reminder this model is compatible with G8 DUDS textures, you can connect your color diffuse textures here and keep all the functionality. If you want to use G8 DUDS textures, you'll have to combine UV maps following this node setup. With this other option, you'll be able to regulate the bump and displacement of the base mesh, as well as trying out my new wrinkle generation. If you enable displacement and you want more fine detail, you can decrease the dicing scale, though be careful not to run out of memory. If you want to use your own bump and normal map, you can add it by connecting it here or with a fancy vector math node. If you want to use your own displacement map, connect it here through a vector math set to add. Connecting them like this will allow you to keep all the base functionality. The sweatiness options are there to make the model hot and steamy, as well as creating droplets. You can use the custom roughness specular option to input the values you want. If you want the droplets anywhere else, you can use the same geometry node on an object and use that object however you like. You could shrink wrap it against any other part of the body, for example. You could also copy the drivers to maintain functionality. Here are all the dirtiness options. As well as the wrapple options. Anything you will place within this collection will be generated onto the sole. It could be dust, sand, buildings, you name it. If you want more control over the density or size of different objects, you can select the wrapple object and go to the geometry node's workspace. You can add another instance on points, and instead of having the collection info node, you can have an object info node instead. Then connect it all with a join geometry node. All nail options are very straightforward. These are for the shape and these are for the material. Here are the options for more fluffy and scaly friends. You can enable and change a pole pad. have some webbing between the toes, and even have fur on the model. The hair utilizes the new Blender 3.5 system, and as such you can change it to your heart's content in geometry nodes, or add geometry nodes modifier from the 3.5 Essential Hair library in the asset browser. Here are the robot options. If you do not like the location of the materials, you can select the robot mesh, go into edit mode, faces, and select the faces that you want of another material and assign said material here. For clothing, you can activate legwear here and then cut it down to your preferred length. You can also revert it and create leggings and pants. You can cut the end to make compression socks or revert it to make toe toppers. The toe toppers option is only available if you have the compression option on. You can also create stirrups. All said options can be also made with the toe socks or tabby, and you can change the thickness of the cloth. For the cotton material, instead of having a uniform color, you can go to the shader tab and select an image here and have it correctly divided with the fibers. In the pantyhose material, the thickness of the fibers is regulated to be the same for all, but if you want more control, you can remove the drivers and manually change them however you want. By turning this on, you'll make every material be rendered in a Toon shader, and by moving this widget, you can change the direction of the light. Remember that by rotating the armature in object mode, you'll move the widget with it, while if you pose the model, the widget will stay still. By turning this on, you'll make each mesh have its own outline. By going over the optimization settings, you can enable the squishing plane. By moving it around, the model will squish and squash against it. You can go to edit mode and change the plane into anything you like. The model will adapt. If you edit the plane, the model may think it's inside it as opposed to outside it. If that happens, come here and check this box. Here you can also determine how strong of a squish you want and how strong of a squash you want. If you need something to be squished against the model instead, come here. I left a test ball with a geometry node group. Add that group to any object and it will squash against the model. You can flatten it and also choose the strength of the effect as well. Sometimes the model just doesn't want to work well. It can happen because of the many shapes and forms that can clip through one another. Other people might instead want even more options in the model and would like to edit it. To fix unruly shape key mixes, modify the fit however you like by using the menu here. Now select the Adjustments Here shape key and click on this button. This will allow you to modify the whole mix of shape keys while keeping all their functionality intact by actually modifying just the Adjustments Here shape key. You can try and get more functionality out of the pre-existing shape keys by changing their range here. If they are driven by a driver, you have to change the custom property as well, or delete the driver. If you want to create an entirely new shape key, you can simply do so here. However, since the model is made out of many parts, it would be impossible to make the same edit for all objects, if you need it for all those, of course. In case you do, just edit the main legs however you want, then install the Mesh Data Transfer add-on, link in the description. Mute all the shape keys except the ones you want to transfer, select another object, go down to Mesh Data Transfer, select Shape Keys, select the Exclude method, select the leg object here, then transfer Mesh Data. You might possibly need minor adjustments. If you encounter some trouble with this model, that may be because of the computing power required to use the adaptive subdivision that's on every object. In the optimization button you can turn it off simply using normal subdivision. This, however, will not allow you to make micro displacement details. Increase the dicing scale to reduce the amount of subdivisions when looking up close to the model. This, however, may enable you once again to make micro displacement details. If those don't work for you, you can go into the Render Properties panel, scroll to Performance, Memory, have the Use Styling checked, and try rendering the scene with less and less tiles. This will slow down the render process, but will also make it so the render is divided in smaller chunks that get calculated one after another instead of all at the same time. It takes longer, but with this you should be able to even get those micro displacement details. The base mesh is the Genesis 8.1 female model containing the Genesis 8 Starter Essential exported from DAZ through the DAZ to Blender bridge. Details and wetness maps created by Nestor Eitsk, Smithy Werben HD and Rigid 3D. The license for the model is within the file itself, and by purchasing the model you are accepting its terms. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks to everyone who purchased the model, and thanks to all those that follow me and support me every day. Is this the end for the model? Not at all. I will keep experimenting and trying stuff out. I would still love to find a way to make clothing look more realistic and great at small scales. Wrinkle generation could be better still, and I'm still not content with the amount of furry stuff available. Let me know if you would like to add something to the model as well. Thank you again and happy rendering. Bye bye!